Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining this session of Cartonize 2025. Before we begin, I have a few housekeeping things to go over. So first off, the session will be recorded and available for on-demand viewing after we wrap up today. You'll receive the recorded session via email within 24 hours. Please feel free to submit questions in the Ask the Question box. We'll get to as many as we can at the end of the discussion. Feel free to use the reaction buttons throughout the session to engage. And if you'd like to talk to the presenter, there's a book a demo option. And then lastly, join the next session in our Cartonize lineup by clicking on the bright pink pop-up window at the end, which will take you there directly. So without further ado, let's get started. I'd like to introduce Avi Moskowitz, who is the CEO and co-founder of PDQ, PrettyDamnQuick, who will be talking about the rise of smart checkout. So take it away, Avi.
Tony, thanks so much for the warm introduction, and thanks to the entire team at Paccurate for organizing this educational series. Checkouts are very near and dear to me, and as you might imagine, anybody who's running a brand today, there's a lot of focus and energy on everything from advertising, the product pages, the customer journey, all the different elements of where the customer and what the customer is doing before they get to checkout. But actually, the moment of truth, the decision that a customer ultimately makes about go, no go, typically happens at checkout. And we've found that not enough attention is given to checkout. So we're going to spend a little bit of time during this session to talk about how we can leverage AI automation to maximize e-commerce profitability by leveraging checkouts and making them intelligent. So when you think about the current state of e-commerce and checkouts, just to give you a bit of perspective, we know most of us have experienced a retail purchasing experience. We've experienced an e-commerce experience. In retail, one of the advantages that retail has is that while you don't have a lot of data on the customer that's entering the store, a customer who walks into a physical store has the trust and confidence of completing that purchase because they're typically interacting with a human. They have the confidence of having the physical product in their hand. They're able to interact with other people and ask questions. And when there's a transaction and they're at checkout, they're actually paying money for something and then taking that product with them. So there's a fair exchange of money for goods. And the entire logistics process is just a shopping bag, right? You take the item, you put it into a bag, and you go home. And if you have an issue, you know where the store is. So that gives you the trust and confidence to complete the purchase. In e-commerce, when you purchase something and you've made your way through the entire journey and entered the store and you finally chose the items you want and potentially bundled it with other items, and now you're in checkout, what's missing in e-commerce is you don't have that fair exchange. You're not paying for something and taking it home. You're actually paying money, but leaving it at the counter. And that leap of faith that customers are required to make to complete their transaction means that there are a lot of checkouts that are abandoned along the way, to the tune of $270 billion worth of checkouts that are abandoned each year. That's a crazy number, right? It translates into all kinds of meaningful impact in the company's economics and your brand's economics, because it means that you've spent a lot of money to get that customer through advertising and the different means that you've invested to bring the customer into your store and take them through the customer journey, only to lose them at checkout. And there are a lot of different reasons for why that's happening, but fundamentally, it's because they're lacking the trust and confidence necessary to get them over the finish line. Now, many of us have also shopped at Amazon, and I would argue that Amazon is more of a logistics company than an e-commerce company, because from the moment you enter the Amazon store, they're communicating the delivery promise to you. They're communicating everything there is to know about the product, so that by the time you get to checkout, you have this confidence you're going to get it because they've made that their focus. They're telling you when you're going to get the item, how much it'll cost, giving you all the options and optionality for being able to choose when you're going to get it delivered or picking it up. And that line of communication builds trust and confidence during the customer journey, which means that the likelihood is the customer is going to complete their transaction, even though they're not receiving the physical goods. So the place that we've put our emphasis and energy is in figuring out how we can help that customer culminate their purchase in a successful way and not abandon because of any of these reasons that you see on the screen, or fundamentally because they're lacking the trust and confidence necessary to complete the order. Now, the way that we're able to transform what's happening at checkout and introduce the kind of emotional feeling and overall confidence of the customer in completing the transaction is by creating a dynamic experience based on the user segment, not treating every customer equally, but looking at a first-time customer different than a returning customer, different than a high-value customer or a subscribing customer, and personalizing the entire experience along the way to maximize the experience for the customer, making it relevant to them and speaking to them in terms that are meaningful to them and will help them complete the journey. And by having this experience personalized, we're able to increase the average order value, increase conversion, ultimately increase customer loyalty, because the connection to your brand is going to be positive if they completed that transaction in a good way, and lifetime value also benefits from that. So how do we go about doing this? How can we make this journey something that's very much personalized so that not every customer that enters your store is going to see the same generic experience? The way we're able to do that is we collect over 1,600 different data points by connecting to every aspect of e-commerce operations. So besides all the information that we have related to the store and this particular customer, we also understand everything there is going to happen in fulfillment, whether you're self-fulfilling or using a 3PL, the delivery company, the carrier, the time to deliver. Every single data point is taken into consideration and fed into the customer journey so that we're speaking to the customer in a way that they can relate to and build the trust necessary to move them through that funnel. So let's look at what it means to show every customer, the segment, and each customer segment, their optimal checkout. So as an example, new versus returning customers, right? What's the difference between a new customer and a returning customer? A new customer never shopped on your store before, so they don't know. They really don't understand what to expect. And it's really up to the store and the brand to clearly communicate the expectations. Many times, brands rely on frequently asked questions or a link to the shipping policy. Those are not things that build trust and confidence. They probably have the opposite effect. So by speaking to the customer and saying, hey, thanks for visiting us for this first time, and I'm even going to make you offers that relate to the fact that I know you're a first-time customer, every step of the journey, especially during checkout when they're ready to make that decision. We're also able to look at the cart, and based on the value of the cart itself, we're able to take larger orders or say, if you top up this order by a few dollars more, we can offer you either expedited shipping or free shipping, and have many different incentives for helping them be able to improve their shipping experience and costs. And we're also able to take advantage, because we understand where the inventory is located, offer them options that are relevant to them. Instead of just saying you'll get in 3 to 5 days, if our inventory is located in Austin and you're in Houston, and we know that we're able to get it to you by the next day, we're able to make a promise based on this particular customer ordering this particular item that's located in this particular inventory location. So let's take an example. Here's Fred, first-time buyer, shipping to the West Coast, checking out Monday at 9:30 a.m., order size is $59.95. So PDQ-IQ is actually looking at this customer and saying, let's offer a faster shipping price, right, versus faster shipping price. We're able to actually test for this particular customer, or based on the fact that he's in the West Coast, we're able to offer a faster shipping option, like I mentioned before, but also we can know whether or not Fred is inclined or has the likelihood of abandonment. We're able to look at the behavior up until the point of checkout and even while at checkout to be able to determine whether or not Fred is hesitating at this point. And based on that, we can show Fred testimonials, trust badges that reinforce how many customers purchased this item or are happy with it. We can even show a gift option, like you see on top of the screen, that says there's a gift waiting for you to help Fred get over the finish line. We're also able to look at this particular order for this particular time based on our fulfillment capabilities and the carriers that we know are going to be able to deliver this order. And based on that, offer the most aggressive delivery promise, knowing that the accuracy is going to be give us a sufficient level of confidence that it'll get delivered on time. All these things are happening in real time during checkout for this particular customer, in this case, Fred. And we're able to do this not just for Fred, but for every customer. We're able to offer dynamic incentives, promotions, and shipping incentives as well. So offering custom product bundles based on all those criteria. Where is the item located? Maybe we have 2 warehouses and part of the order is in one location and parts in another location. We have to be able to communicate clearly to set that expectation as accurately as possible. We can automatically offer relevant upsells, coupons, or discounts based on all the information that we have about the customer, the product, the physical inventory location, and how it's going to be delivered. Similarly for promotions and shipping as well. So when you think about all the different components that you can customize in checkout, there's quite a bit that you're able to do. Number one, you're able to provide relevant and profitable upsells. And this is really important because upselling won't necessarily help you if you're not making money on that upsell. So there are a lot of considerations. In a moment, we're going to talk about cartonization because the box itself has a very big impact on the overall cost of the package. So for example, many brands offer an upsell, but in fact, the second item that's being added won't fit in the same box. Now, suddenly you're going to find yourself having to have a second box, pay for shipping a second time, and the customer is not paying for it because it's all part of the upsell journey without additional shipping cost. So you've taken a profitable order and suddenly made it non-profitable. So the upsell has to be relevant and profitable. That's one. You're able to have average order boosting free shipping bar. So you have a bar that shows the progress, and as the customer adds items that are profitable to the cart, they're able to see they're getting closer and closer to either free shipping, expedited shipping, and other offers that we're able to introduce as well. Different payment options. You're able to look at optimal messaging, pricing, and arrival times. So, for example, we've seen that on Friday, if someone places an order and you know that your 3PL, your third-party logistics company, is not going to be working until Monday, you may not want to say it's going to take, 3 business days or 4 business days. It seems like a long time to customers ordering on Friday. So we can change the messaging to make it more appealing and help the customer complete the order, knowing exactly when it is that it's going to get picked, packed, and shipped. Of course, options like buy now and pay later, we're able to selectively choose that for different segments of customers so that you make the right offer to the right customer, and supporting the trust and confidence with all kinds of trust badges, testimonials, and other elements. You'd be surprised how even an icon, a little trust icon, like you see on the screen with Trustpilot, can make a significant impact in conversion. So those are just some examples of the many customizations that are possible in checkout. But most importantly, these customizations need to come specifically to the segment you're speaking to, differently for a first-time customer than a returning customer, than a subscribing customer, and so on. So when we talk about cartonization and you look at the combination of PDQ with Paccurate, What we're able to do is actually look at the box itself and calculate the exact box that's going to minimize waste and also reduce the fees as much as possible. So we're able to make sure that we're not wasting money on shipping. Shipping, as we know, is a very significant line item when it comes to your P&L. And we're able to help make sure that even at checkout, we're offering the customer those items that are going to fit into the box, as I mentioned earlier, without needing a second box or without significantly increasing shipping cost. We're also able to handle unusual situations like custom rules for fragile or temperature controlled SKUs. We have some brands that are using us that ship plants or ice cream. Jenny's Ice Cream is one example. Easy Plant is an example. Levain Cookies, David's Cookies. These are all examples of situations where it's a perishable item. It has unique circumstances around it, and the packing is very much tied to the product because you need to leave room, for example, for dry ice. How much room do you need? How much dry ice is needed? How much time is it going to be in transit? All those things are taken into consideration. So we're able to formulate a delivery promise that's accurate, even considering all those different variables. We're also able to offer intelligent shipping options based on the contents of the order. As I mentioned earlier, we can take into consideration that the inventory and where the inventory is located, or maybe it's split inventory, and be able to communicate that clearly. Auto splitting to keep incompatible items separate, or fitting upsells in the same box is something that I mentioned earlier. All these things have a very meaningful impact on the bottom line because, as you've experienced when it comes to shipping, shipping can be as somewhere between 10 to 20% of the overall cost, sometimes even more. And by being able to save, by efficiently managing the boxes and the packaging, you're able to save significantly on your overall expenses. So some examples, because we're talking about the bottom line here, these are just some examples of the brands that are using us and using AI optimization across the board to be able to benefit. In the case of Under Outfit, first-time buyers with smaller carts, low weight, get discount shipping. Talking about increasing their revenues by over $640,000. Jones Road is able to personalize the delivery promise and checkout based on specific delivery zones and the closest inventory location, over $1.5 million in contribution margin, profitability, uplifted annually. Laura Geller, cosmetics brand, a leading cosmetics brand, was able to segment by cart value. So customers that had free shipping, they're offered by default to pay for expedited or a better shipping experience. And that alone increased their revenues by almost $800,000. So we're talking about meaningful numbers by managing this overall customer experience in a personalized and segmented way. So with that, I'd like to wrap it up. I'll just take a moment to pause, let Tony jump in and help us with any Q&A here.
Perfect. Yeah, great info, and I really appreciate that, Avi. So yeah, we actually do have a few questions that came in. So the first one right now is, so you gave some great examples of how PDQ tailors the experience for different buyer types. What's the biggest mistake you see merchants make with first-time buyers?
Yeah. So that first-time buyer, like when you go back to the example that I used of you wandering into a retail store, the retail store, as you walk, all of us are walking through that store, we're starting to get a bit more confidence based on how the items are presented, how the store is laid out. In a very similar way, an e-commerce buyer, the first time they enter the store, they're looking for trust and confidence signals. And when you're presenting them a generic option, and it speaks to every customer in the same way, you're losing the opportunity for social proof and safety cues, things that say, I feel comfortable about this brand. I feel comfortable about leaving them money, even though I won't have that item. So things like concrete promises, maybe something that says, hey, Tony, Thanks for visiting our store. It's your first time here, so I'd like to offer you something special. All those things help build trust and confidence, and we lose that opportunity when you're just offering that first-time customer a generic experience that every customer is seeing in the same way.
Okay, awesome. So next one is in regards to kind of risk of over personalization. So the experience becomes too fragmented or manipulative. How would you recommend kind of maintaining that balance?
It's a tough one. I'd say the reason that many websites, many of these e-commerce stores out there are not personalized, and rightfully so, is because brands are afraid of miscommunicating. You don't want to make a mistake and speak to someone who's actually a first-time customer as a returning customer, or not understand the information about where your inventory or product is located or customer is getting delivered to. This is why we ingest over 1,600 different data points, because it's really important to get it right. The risk of over-personalization is if it can really backfire if you get it wrong, right? If you're not communicating with the customer in the right way, that actually will backfire. So it's really important that the language and the communication is targeted to the right segment. You get that right, and that's something we very, very much focus on. But also we have testing. So we're able to do A/B testing and make sure that the messaging is on key and striking the right note and working the way it's meant to be working.
Okay, thanks. We've got a couple more. I think we might be able to get to both, but let's go ahead and start with the next one and see how we're doing from a time perspective. So the examples of new versus returning customers, cart value, geolocation, super powerful. How should companies decide which segmentation logic to prioritize first?
So that's a great question, because it does feel like there's so much opportunity. Typically, when we take a look at a brand initially, there's so many things screaming at us and so many opportunities for increasing revenues and profits. But the first thing we do typically is we run an audit, and that's a service that we have that's free, that identifies where the biggest opportunities are. Many times it is the first-time buyer, but through our audit, we're able to identify the segment and be able to highlight where the biggest potential leak is, where it is that we can make the most money. And by doing so, we're able to focus initially there, but because we're able to run multiple tests at the same time, we're able to roll out to multiple segments. But to answer your question, you really want to focus on the one area where it's going to have the biggest impact, and we can typically see results of that within a couple of days.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. All right, I do think we have time for this last one, and then we'll go ahead and close out. So, so it's clear PDQ focuses on the front end, right? But how important do you see shipping transparency and packaging accuracy to driving kind of return business, right? That repeat business.
Yeah, I think it's something that just is overlooked on e-commerce in general. What we've seen with brands is how much e-commerce operations influences the customer experience. And if you're only looking at the customer up until the point or even through checkout, but not understanding the rest of what's happening, you're giving up so much of the potential value and the opportunity to build that relationship with the customer, because they really do want to understand that customers who are spending money don't want to be surprised. The more that you're able to incorporate what's going to happen after checkout before the checkout, the more likely you are to get that customer over the finish line and get them to buy and buy with confidence, and then deliver as promised.
Okay. All right. Awesome. I think that kind of ends our Q&A portion. So once again, Avi, thank you very much. I mean, very insightful, just wonderful information. Anytime I hear you speak, it's just great information that's being, and you present really, really well. So so to everybody else, so thank you all for participating in Cart and Eyes so far. This is our second session, so keep moving. And so thank you for joining this session with Avi. If we didn't get to your question, we'll follow up via email to continue the conversation. Again, if you'd like to join the next session, there's a link on the far right console that will take you there directly. If for some reason moving to the next session doesn't seem seamless, don't fret, maybe simply just refresh your screen and you should be good. So again, thank you everybody for joining. Have a great day and we'll see you on the next session. And Avi, again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tony, and thanks for Team Paccurate and everybody who's joined us to be part of the session today. Have a great day.
All right. See you.